sex is so easy for a woman to get, it's almost laughable. So why on earth would a woman hire a male escort? My name is Stirling Cooper. I'm an award-winning adult film star, former high-class male companion, and I'm here to help you improve your sex life. So I've had a lot of you guys request I tell you some stories from my experiences as a male escort. Some stories about the kinds of clients I had. Now obviously I'm not going to give you any names or super specific details that might reveal anyone's identity. Discretion is very important in that line of work. But I have a few stories I can regale you with today which can give you an idea of the types of women who would hire a male companion and why they would hire a male companion. So the first client I ever actually had was a former escort herself. She used to escort back when she was in her 30s when she hired me, but when she was in her 20s in university, she actually escorted herself, and she told me this during our first encounter. And it was actually her and her husband / partner or whatever. He'd paid for me as a present to her. And so basically it was like what you would call like a live cuckolding session, I guess. Hotel room, he was sitting in the corner watching while me and her had some fun. It was actually in a casino hotel back in Western Australia. And we got to meet each other in the lobby, chit chat, getting to know each other. And being my first ever client, I was kind of nervous. I didn't really know what I was doing. So you kind of have to, with a lot of jobs, you have to kind of figure it out as you go along and like play the part. And one of the first questions out of her mouth was actually, "Oh, how long have you been doing this for?" And I'm like, completely light out my ass. "Oh, I've been doing it, about a year or so." I had not been doing it for a year. So this was my first ever client. So I still didn't know like the lingo of the whole escorting world. I hadn't quite figured out all the nomenclature that customers and escorts use between each other. But it was really intriguing to me to have this woman kind of, you know what I think it was? It was actually if I remember correctly, it was actually like their wedding anniversary. It was like a wedding present for the two of them. And this is what I always found whenever I had clients who were couples like that. A large chunk of the time, or actually basically all the time, it was either entirely the dude's idea, or it was, on a rare occasion, I think this was one of those occasions, it was both their ideas. It was never ever only the woman's idea. 9 times out of 10, it was entirely the dude's plan to have his missus bang another dude in front of him. And a lot of you guys might be incredibly shocked to hear that, but that kind of cuckold fantasy, that kind of mentality, is way more common than a lot of dudes would kind of understand. And from my experiences, I got a lot of clients like that, those couple kind of live cuckolding experience clients, when I was living in Western Australia. And here's why I think that was the case. Because they did this thing back, this was during the mining boom in Western Australia when iron ore prices were really good. So you had this phenomenon called fly-in, fly-out workers. And what would happen is a dude would fly to the north of Western Australia, he'd work on a mine for like 2 weeks. It was called 2 weeks on, 1 week off. He'd go there, work for 2 weeks, and he'd come back to Perth for 1 week of vacation, or 1 week of time off. And so what are the dudes doing that whole time there on the mine site for 2 weeks? Well, their missus is not there, their wife's not there. It's just a bunch of dudes. At nighttime, they're probably jerking off to a ton of porn. So what are they doing? They're watching other dudes fuck women. And it kind of creates this mentality in their head of, it creates this extreme kind of sexual perversions. So when they come back to the city, they kind of want to act those out and want to live those out. And so they hire a dude like me to bang their missus in front of them, and it appeases that kind of sexual fantasy. So that was my first ever client, was one of those experiences. And that's kind of when I knew I could do this job, because that's a bit more high pressure than just seeing a woman one-on-one. Is like banging some dude's wife in front of him. There's a degree of pressure to perform there. Now, another one of my frequent clients was actually an escort herself. And this also kind of blew my mind when I was first starting out. Having other girls who were working girls themselves, who spend all day on their back, all day, being taken out to fancy dinners and stuff, all day, pleasing male clients, being seen as this, being put on a pedestal, right? Being paid to please male clients. Them just wanting a night off. Them just wanting the experience of being the one with the power. That was a large component of it. There's also the component of her, getting to have a night off, getting to relax, and just being the receiver, not being the giver, being the one receiving the pleasure, was a big component of it. And this particular client, client slash a girl who used to escort, yeah, she would hire me on occasion, like every month or so. I'd get a message from her and be like, "Yo, come over. Like, I've just seen my last client. Come over. I want you to help me go to sleep. Help me just get me off so I can go to sleep and enjoy the rest of my night." And that kind of blew my mind. Like, why would this woman need to hire me? And a large part of the reason is, well, it's hard for that woman to kind of meet a dude who's gonna be totally cool with her line of work. She knows I'm not gonna have a problem with it. I literally do it as well. So it's like, okay, well, this is a guy who can come over, we can get down to business, I can get this kind of lust out of my system, and there's gonna be no awkwardness, he's gonna be charming, there's gonna be no judgment, it's completely a positive experience. And that's why I got clients who were escorts themselves. Now, a large part of being able to do this job at all was based around having the old boy downstairs working properly. So if you'd like to learn some of my industry tips and techniques, then I highly suggest you check out my ebook right here. Now, one of my best clients was actually a multi-millionaire from China. Now, she was what you would call a whale. I don't mean whale in the sense of she was large. I mean a whale in the sense of she was very, very rich. That's what we would call very wealthy clients. The ones that bring in most of your income are going to be the regular clients who are, extremely wealthy. And this woman, she had it was a kind of a sad situation, if I'm being perfectly honest. So she was actually, she was living in Australia, and she was actually married to a man back in China still. And it was a marriage of reputation, a marriage of, like, our family is well off. His family has a high social standing, so we get married, and it's the perfect couple, like, socially, to be seen out and about. The thing was, he still lived in China, she lived in Australia, and they never actually hung out. They didn't have any sex. They never really got intimate with each other. It was a totally loveless marriage. It was a marriage purely for saving face, if that makes sense. Because that's a big part of Chinese culture, is saving face, not being, an Asian culture in general, from my understanding. Not being embarrassed, meeting social norms. So a woman of her age needed to be married, otherwise it's inappropriate, right? And she had this. It was an unfortunate situation because she, basically all of her family, she had a lot of family in Australia, and basically all of her family, every single one that wanted to, whenever they interacted with her, all they wanted was money from her. She was a multi, like, deca-millionaire. She was well off. And, she used to fly me out to New Zealand, and we'd go on skiing trips for the weekend and stuff. 5-star restaurants every single night, the best food available, staying in the best hotels, taking in the best entertainment. And she really just wanted companionship. Obviously sex was involved as well, but a large part of it was just having someone to be around, who didn't want anything from her. Like, the transaction was already done, you know? Like, she's paid a certain amount, I'm gonna be there for the weekend, we're gonna have a good time together. There's no expectation on top of it, there's no deception, it's totally honest. But whenever she was hanging out with her family members, they'd always want something from her, they'd always try to get in her will, or try to get a pair of earrings, or some jewelry off her, or some money off of her. And she, you know, it's funny, the only member in her family, because she told me all this, obviously, the only member in her family, I don't want to give away too much about her, because it might reveal her identity, but she had one member of her family who was the one she hung out with all the time. And this younger woman, her niece, she was the only one who didn't want anything from her. So that was the one that got spoiled all the time. You know, she would buy her things and take her out to restaurants and stuff like that. And it was nice hearing that she actually had someone to, you know, be herself around. But then when it came to dating, obviously, it's super hard for her to find someone who's going to be like on her level, who isn't going to jeopardize her financial situation. And more importantly, she's already married, so she can't really marry anyone else. It's really taboo for her to go out and be seen with another dude. So that's where I come in. Discretion. Obviously, it's an arrangement, and she doesn't have to worry about any of that, and she can have that companionship that she's been so desperately missing. Now, if you'd like to learn some more insights into female nature from my career as a male escort, I highly suggest you check out this video right here.